Unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Now, please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen of the Kick-Ass Nation? Thank you guys for joining us again for what is going to be an amazing, amazing conversation tonight. It's been a minute since I've been having guests, and I'm so excited to have this guest. They sought me out, and like I've said in the promos, it's going to be an unbelievable conversation. So I encourage you to get your buttered popcorn. I encourage you to fasten your seatbelts. I encourage you, if you're watching live on the video cast, to engage with us in these here comments, because we have the comments there for a reason. So you guys can like interact with us live. It's kind of cool. I know that in 100+ countries, you guys are listening to my voice and you're going to be listening to my guest voice. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. When I look at the numbers, and I'm not a numbers person, when I look at the numbers and I realize how many people that this voice is reaching across this spinning blue marble in space, I'm pretty fucking overjoyed. You know what? I live in the United States, and I will tell you this. There are, how can I say this politely? There are moments when I feel bad. Let's just say that, because I want to extend a big hug to the entire world. You know, it says right there, lover of humanity, underneath my little name that says my name, lover of humanity. I have a shirt that says free hugs. So, and just to let you know, I have humanity on the back of my truck. I have a sign in the front of my house that talks about equality and inclusion. So you get the idea of the kind of person that I am. And I just send you hugs wherever you are listening to this particular podcast right now, because it is about love. It's about unity. It's about community. It's about realizing that we are more the same than we are different. And I'm really sick and tired of the hate and the propaganda and the bullshit. I don't watch the news. I don't follow politics. What I do every single day is I wake up and I say what I'm grateful for. Then I set my intention. And my intention is never to look at the news and be negative and pissed off, because easily if I look at anything that is newsworthy or whatever it might be, I do get sad. I think about artificial intelligence. I've done shows here recently. You guys could go check them out. The world is in a hurting place. And so my intention every single day is to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place and send everybody a big hug, because we are more the same than we are different, no matter what labels you put on us. The religious labels, the origin labels, I don't even like to think about them. You split us down the middle, we're all the same. I could donate blood, you could donate a kidney, I could donate a liver. You know, there's that back and forth. No matter where we come from, we are more the same than we are different. And we want the same fucking things, no matter what political ideology you subscribe to, religious ideology you subscribe to, ancestry, whatever it might be for you. We all want safety, security, opportunity, equality, and to really, honestly, leave this world a better place for our kids than we got it. And that's the thing I think about everywhere I go, is how can I leave this place? How can I leave this restaurant a little bit better? How can I leave this gym a little bit better? How can I leave this conversation a little bit better? How can I make this person smile when perhaps they're not smiling? And I do that. I hold the door open for people. I say, hi, you know, you can do these same things in your life. We can do this together. We don't have to wait for somebody else to tell us what to do. We can sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to do it right now, or whatever it is for you, is you can set that intention to say, you know what? I'm going to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And that's what I encourage you to do on the show. Is it's not about being a victim. It's not about saying, oh, it's that person's problem. When are they going to save me? When is this going to happen? It's about sitting there looking inward and looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? I'm a badass motherfucker, and I can figure out what it is that I can do today, right now, in this moment, to make things just a little bit better. And I've encouraged my friends, my female friends, like, go put some makeup on, like, look real nice, go get your girlfriends and go have some coffee, like, build small moments together, build them all together. You stitch those moments together and you create a kick-ass life. But if you're focusing on what's negative and you're focusing on what's fucked up, guess what? You will invite more of that into your life than you could ever possibly imagine. I've given people the example, and I'll give you guys this example. Look around the room and tell me everything that's red. And you're going to go red, 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 red. All right, tell me what was yellow. Well, Chris, you were telling me to look at what's red. The same thing happens in life. We have this thing called a reticular activation system. And if you look at what is problematic, if you look at what's negative, you look at what's troubling you, you will find more of that. But if you sit there and go, wow, there's a fan going. Wow, I have lights around the room. Wow, my son is outside enjoying his iPad. Wow, my wife is at the gym and she's going to be coming home and making dinner. Wow, I'm about to have an amazing conversation. Wow, I have a big screen monitor in front of me. Wow, I have a microphone that's talking to so many people all across the world that I'll probably never meet. How fucking cool is this? This experience that we get to have is called life. And I can promise you, it does not last forever. You are going to die. And when you die, you're going to have a flash of going, did I live my life or did I exist in my life? Did I wait for someday to be happy or did I decide today to be happy? That's what I invite you to do. That's what this show is about. That's what I'm about. It's about love. It's not about fear. So you have to decide for yourself, what lens am I choosing to look through? Am I choosing to look through the lens of love or am I choosing to look through the lens of fear? And trust me, there's a tons of stuff to be afraid about. I'm not discounting that, but I'm saying in the moment, can you hug your kid? Can you call a friend? Can you sit there and tell yourself that you're badass? Not that, Jesus Christ, I fucked up everything in my life and everything's going to suck and I'm never going to find a man. I'm not going to find a job and everything's going to be terrible and I don't know what I'm going to do. Or is it the fact that you're going to pull your bootstraps up, as they say in the old Westerns, I guess, I don't know, and decide for yourself that you're going to be a kick-ass, unstoppable, no excuses oriented individual that figures it the fuck out. There's a great book out there by Marie Forleo that says everything is figure outable. And when I heard that book, I read it, listening to it, and it's so true. Like when you think about your life and you think about all the challenges in your life, did you figure it out? Did you plan on your bingo card that you were going to go through a divorce? Did you plan that you were going to get laid off? Did you plan that you were going to get betrayed by your best friend? Did you plan? No, you did not. But guess what? You got through it. And not only you got through it, but then you realized, holy shit, I'm better because I went through that terrible experience. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about a very, very, very terrible experience, but we're going to be talking about and talking with an individual that has decided to not only take that experience and let it become her light, but also become an advocate for other people who might be experiencing that same thing. And so before we get into that, I want to talk about last week's show. Last week's show, I did on the day, how do I say this? My president put out a tweet that said he was going to annihilate an entire civilization. Fortunately, that did not happen. I went to the Bruce Springsteen concert that night and sat in a room with 28,000 other people who stood up and said, hey, this land, no matter what label you have, no matter what political ideology you subscribe to, this land's pretty fucking cool. And let's put an arm around each other. Let's lean in to say, hey, let's fucking make it great. We don't need the government. We don't need the politicians. We don't need anybody else to make it great. We can do it together. And we can do it by the things that we choose to do. Not sitting there going, who does that person vote for? Where is that? What religion does that person? Does that person? Does that? No, we're all fucking same, like I said before. And so not only did I have a very emotional opening to last week's show, but also talked about the 10 events in our life that you guys and me, pointing the fingers back at me, in case you're not watching, that we tend to avoid in our life. 10 life experiences that we tend to go, yeah, that'll happen someday. I don't need to think about that right now. I have got more emails and messages and whatever you want to talk about that said, Chris, thank you for doing that because I wasn't taking that seriously. So go back and listen to that show. It was podcast number 363 because now we're on 364. We've been doing this for 7 years. I've been doing this now almost 20 years. Been talking to people. And so I can tell you that tonight's guest is pretty incredible. It's a pretty amazing story. And I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go, but I know it's going to go in the place that we need it to for you and for me. Because that's what I believe in having these raw and unscripted conversations is that I let the universe, I let my soul, I let my brain, I let my heart guide where it needs to go, so that ultimately at the end of the conversation, not only you, the listener, the viewer, but also the person that I'm talking to, that we all walk away going, you know what? I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do that. Because you think about this, for 363 different episodes, if you take 3 action items away from each particular episode and you apply them in your life, which is totally achievable, it's totally realistic, guess what? You start having those micro wins. And then you have those micro wins. Guess what? You start building your confidence. Guess what? You start to realize, hey, shit, I don't need to do that fucking crap anymore, because that's not for me. That's against me. The negative self-talk is against me. I don't need to do that anymore. Guess what? I'm tolerating that person. I don't need to do that anymore. Guess what? If I get up and I keep my promises, I start to feel better about myself. Guess what? When I start to feel better about myself, I start to do better, and I start to set the example for other people, and other people start to see that shit. You see what I'm saying? And it all builds on itself. That enthusiasm builds. And then all of a sudden you realize 6 months from now, you're a different fucking person. How about that? So whatever has happened in your life, I want you to suspend that. If you're feeling like a victim, I want you to suspend that. I want you to sit back and sit there, and I want you to get out a pad of paper, a fan of paper, get out something to write with, and say, you know what, from this conversation tonight, I am going to do 3 things. In the next 7 days, I'm going to do 3 things, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to listen to the next episode, or I'm going to go back and listen to 3 other episodes, and I'm going to do 3, 6, 9 things from those things. And then I'm going to build upon that. And guess what? Together, we can make the spinning blue marble in space a little bit better. You know what? Not necessarily for ourselves, but I have a 9-year-old kid that I pray to God, please, that we leave it just a little bit better than we got it. And I'm really, really scared that we're not. So you and I together can do this. All right. So for my friends that are following at home, we got Believe in Yourself BIY says, hi, Christopher. We got Jacqueline over here says, hello, Christopher and everyone. I believe that's Robert. I'm trying to think about this. Yeah, Robert's always saying hi to everybody else. So if you're listening, if you're watching at home, you guys can always show up here and be a part of the community and participate on the video cast. But tonight's conversation is going to be unlike anything we've ever had here, pretty much, I think, recent times at least, on the Raw Unscripted show. So please help me in welcoming to the stage, to the conversation, Caroline Boyd. What's up, Caroline? Welcome to the Raw Unscripted show. Finally, what's going on, sister?
Hi, Christopher. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is an important conversation that needs to be had. And I'll be honest, I'm a bit nervous, but this is what I'm to do. This is a new journey that I'm on. And I do need to share the story that led me to this journey.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I thank you. That's why I went a little bit long in the intro, because I figured you might be backstage going, okay, let me get my bits together. Yeah. So what'd you think of that opening? What inspired you about that opening? Because I always try to make the opening like just a smack in the throat.
I think it was great. And it inspired me because I watched your show live last week, and you talked about the things that, we put off and what that they can cause problems for your family if you were to die tomorrow and you put off doing your will and just different things like that. And it really encouraged me to realize, hey, there's some things I need to do. Something as simple as buying that fireproof lockbox that you said, put your passport in it, put your important papers in it. I mean, it was great. And if anybody didn't see that show, please tune in, because it'll help you. And it will also help your family in your absence, if ever that comes one day.
And it will. And it will. And it's pretty surprising how it happens and when it happens. Unfortunately, I've seen so many of my coaching clients, my friends, everybody go through that. I just had a dear friend of mine. I had a conversation with her on a Zoom on a Thursday. Everything was great. Hadn't talked to her in a couple of years. Just did the Facebook messaging thing. Hey, how are you doing? What's going on? What's new? Da, da, da. She was on my show, Raquel McDermott. You guys can go check it out. It was early on. And then I said, let's jump on a Zoom. We haven't talked to each other in a while. Had a great conversation. The next Tuesday, I'm getting into bed and my wife's on her social media. So I'm like, oh, let me just check what's going on. And I go on Instagram. 99% of my Instagram is music. most of my stuff is music. As you can tell, I love music. If you guys are looking on the video cast, I have guitars behind me. I look like a musician. Love music. But the first post was my friend Raquel posting that she woke up in the morning and had her left arm numb. And I thought immediately, does she have a heart attack? She's 2 years younger than I am. But no, she went to the emergency room. Long story short, found out she had a lemon size tumor in her head. And I texted her at 10 p.m. my time. She's actually in Washington, I believe. I always forget Washington, Oregon, but she texted me a picture back of her view of looking out the back of an ambulance on her way to a hospital to get brain surgery. And I tell people this, like, holy fucking shit. Like, that's how fast life can say, you know what? I'm going to switch your life. And her life is permanently changed now. She's having seizures. She's on medication. She's having a trouble walking. She made it through the surgery. She has her faculties, but now she's unable to work. All these different things happen. And I tell people all the time, and I think about it myself, like, is today the day that something's going to happen? Can I give my son an extra hug? Can I tell my wife that I love her? Can I tell my friends that I love them? I tell my friends all the time, they're like, Chris, Jesus Christ, calm down. It's okay. And I'm like, no, I love you. I appreciate you. So yes,
People
thank you
need
for
to hear
mentioning
that. They need to hear it.
Yes, we all do. We all do. We all do.
Even
Life is so short.
Even strangers.
Yeah, I say hi to people. I open the door for somebody today. They looked at me. I always look like this, and they're like, "Why are you opening the door for me?" And I'm like, "Hey, you have an awesome workout." And I just probably went home and told somebody like, "Yeah, this guy held the door open for me. You look like I don't know." But yeah, we can do those things. We can do those things for each other, and we need to do. So my question for you, given the rabbit hole and the different things we're going to talk about tonight, what do you want people to walk away from this conversation without telling the story yet? But what do you want people to walk away from this conversation knowing and feeling in their heart of hearts about their opportunities?
I would say I want everybody to know that you have a voice and you can use your voice for good and to make changes and have confidence in yourself. And if there's something that you're experiencing, no matter how bad it seems at the time, know that things will get better. I'm living proof. I never thought I would be in the place there I am today after I went through what I went through last year. But I turned that pain into my purpose. That almost sounds like a cliche. I don't know if it is one or not. But
it's a bumper sticker now.
It is now. But you can make a difference and you're going to get better. And I'm going to share my story, as hard as it is and as painful as it is, to help you see that we're all hurt and we're all going through things, but you don't have to be alone and you can't do it alone. And you've got Christopher and his coaching group. It's important because as my story unfolds, once we get through the sad part of it, I can't wait to share what I've turned all of that into to help other people.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Yes, it is. It's pretty amazing that I'm sitting here. We had a conversation earlier, just full transparency to everybody who was listening and watching. We had a conversation earlier and she said, you're lucky to be alive. And I said, yeah, I should be dead or in jail. And just for you guys that are new to the show, I was homeless at the age of 13. I was living in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs and a mother with various psychological disorders. I tried to kill myself twice, but fortunately I sucked at it. And ultimately I had a gun put to my head where I told the guy to pull the trigger. I said, pull the fucking trigger. And I fully expected to be dead and experience heaven and figure out what that was all like. And fortunately somebody intervened and it was a pause for me to take ownership for my life, to not wind up dead or not wind up in jail. And I ultimately turned my life around and went back and got my GED and then spent the next 12 years going to school and getting my master's degree. And now I've spent my entire life in corporate and coaching and speaking and book writing and all sorts of things. So if I can do it and Caroline can do it, you guys could do it out there. So next question for you, my dear, is what's the story behind the original message? What is it that you want to convey to people tonight about your situation that people might not be aware of?
I'm sorry, I don't really understand. You want me to start the beginning of the story?
Yeah, tell me the reason why you're here. Because we've had the conversation. Tell us that part of the story, because then I want to dig into the resiliency. I want to dig into the hero that you can be and you will be for people who are watching and listening tonight.
Mhm. So when I was faced with what you're going to hear, I thought I had hit what I've heard other people call rock bottom. I've never been in a place in my life or had anything so bad happen to me that I would even know what rock bottom was. But I received some news on a topic that was life changing for me. And it was so painful that I just completely shut myself off from society, from my friends. I couldn't handle the information that was shared with me based on a decision that I made on something that I thought was true decades ago. I got off all social media, and I was part of a training team on a new app, actually. And I was doing 2-hour training classes a day. I just disappeared. My friends didn't know where I went. It was so devastating. I couldn't even tell anybody because I couldn't even comprehend what I was being told on a phone call. Like you mentioned, your life can change just like that.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I received a call with life changing information. And it was so bad, Christopher, that I'm a Christian and I prayed to God and I asked him, I said, what do you want me to do with this? Because my parents taught me from a young age, Christopher, that everything happens for a reason. I've always believed that. And I know that bad things happen to good people.
Mhm.
And I consider myself to be a good person. But I found myself in a situation that I should have never been in. And I trusted someone who I thought I could trust more than anyone. And to find out and be told that what I was told wasn't actually what was going on, with you said without saying it. I was so devastated, Christopher, that I asked God, I said, please, I can't handle this burden. This is too much. I can't believe this is happening. This doesn't even seem real.
Yeah.
And God, I love you and I trust you, but what do you want me to do with this? And I couldn't handle it, the truth. And I even asked him, Christopher, daily, sometimes multiple times a day, to just bring me home. I begged him. I said, I'm putting this at your feet. I don't know what to do with this. It was so earth shattering. I've never been in that place so low that I didn't want to live another day. But I was so hurt, so deeply hurt, and felt so violated that I just didn't want to go on. But I found the strength and I turned it into something positive. And do you want me to share now with you before the story what I've done, or
Yeah, why
you
don't
just
you? I
got
just you're keeping people in suspense, but yeah, let's share with everybody what happened, because
okay?
I've shared here on social media and through the podcast promo that this is a pretty unbelievable story. This everybody who knows the show knows it's about the positivity of the spirit of being able to overcome the resilience of
Mhm.
anything that God, source, universe can put on our plate. And what you experienced is unbelievable, unconscionable. But the resiliency that you have proven through this has been really remarkable. But yeah, share people with the details of what happened that faithful day that allowed you to become the woman that's sitting in front of us today.
I had received a message from a pastor in the town that I'm from, and he told me that he had been contacted by someone who thought that I was the birth mother of a child that they adopted. And Christopher, after I graduated from high school, while I was still living at home with my parents, I did become pregnant. And my child was placed for adoption. Now, I had no plans on placing my child for adoption. My family didn't want me to place my child for adoption. But the reason I did was because I was so afraid to tell my parents the news. I had told the father, and he didn't want anything to do with me. So I was all alone, petrified at what they would say or do. So I went to a minister, Christopher, because my parents always taught me if ever I get in any situation where I need help, or when they're not around at school, go to a teacher, go to an officer, go to someone in an authority position. So for this, I chose a minister because I felt like if he was with me when I tell my parents, that would be safety in numbers, right? It would be
Yeah.
me with at least somebody else that knew. So I went to the minister, and as hard as it was to tell him, I did. And he listened, and he was sympathetic, and he offered to tell my parents for me. I just wanted him to help me tell my parents, to be with me. But
And
he
you were
offered to,
18?
as yes, 18. Hmm. And he asked me if my parents were home at the time. He said, I'll help you. We can do it right now. And I just felt like the weight of the world was lifted from my shoulders. And I was thanking
Mhm.
God, thank you, God. I knew this is what I should do.
Right.
Now, I did also know that my mother wouldn't be the one that wouldn't handle it well because, well, bless her heart, she just, she's a woman. I mean, we're emotional, right? And she
Mhm.
would be so
Love it.
heartbroken. So I said it would be best to tell my father first. So I didn't call my house. I actually went home because I couldn't take a chance of my mother answering. And my father was mowing the grass. And I told him that the minister wanted to talk to him and that everything was okay, not to worry, that I was going to go back to the church and to please come to the minister's office. So when my dad arrived, the minister was just real short and direct. And he basically, what he said was, your daughter has fallen in love. And as a result of the love for her boyfriend, she is now expecting a child. And Christopher, I couldn't even look at my father. My father was sitting to my right. I just had my head down. And as my head was down, though, I could see his hand reaching out to me. And he took my hand and he said, "It's going to be okay, honey." Boy, was I wrong. I thought I would probably be told I couldn't stay at home anymore. That's what my biggest fear was. I mean, you see shows on TV, where women get into a situation if they're still at home, and their parents will tell them that they can't live there anymore. And that's not what I was afraid of. But
Yeah.
it was totally
Understandable.
not what I expected. And so then the minister offered to tell my mother, but my dad said I did the right thing by telling him first. Long story short, my father went to my mother's house, her mother's house, and the two of them told her, and I was told to come home 2 hours later. And Christopher, I was even wrong about my mother's reaction. Yes, she was disappointed, and yes, she was crying because she was so hurt because the situation that I was in, but she held her arms out and hugged me. And she told me how much she loved me and told me that same thing Dad said, "It's going to be okay, honey." I was blessed. My family was so, so supportive. But that changed
Mm.
within a couple of days.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have sisters, no brothers.
Were they made aware of the situation?
Yes, but
Okay.
not until later.
Gotcha.
I wasn't showing yet. A few days later, the minister called me again, and he said he wanted to check and see how everything was going and how my mother handled it. And I told him everything was going really good. And surprisingly, my mother was excited that she was going to be a grandmother.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been any better. And see, that's why fear is so hard for us, because we let our imagination go places that it what the reality of any situation is going to be. We just blow things out of proportion. And so I told him everything was fine, and he offered me spiritual counseling. And I've never heard of spiritual counseling. I've heard counseling. I said, well, that's okay. I don't need it. I declined his offer. But he explained to me that because of my young age, that I did need spiritual counseling. So I agreed to meet him. And the day that I went to his office, his spiritual counseling was actually him informing me that what I had done was I had committed what he called a sexual sin, and that I must atone to God for that sin.
Wow.
Now,
That's
I
a
was
shift.
only 19, so I didn't even know really understand what atone meant then. But basically, I got the gist of it. In order to get back in with good with God, you've got to do something to get in good with God again. But Christopher, that atonement, he then went on to explain, was
Take your time.
that I had to let a Christian couple who can't have children, who would be better parents than I would be, a single, unwed young girl with the father not involved, and that I owed it to my child to let him be raised by somebody else and place him for adoption. And he told me that the church has its own foundation, he called it, and they help couples, Christian couples, to adopt children. And he
How did
convinced
your
me,
parents respond to that information once they heard that? I'm guessing they were part of the church as well.
no.
No.
Well, my father was at one time, but my mother went to a different denomination. They were livid, and they tried to explain to me. They said, this is not what God would want you to do. They agreed that I had committed, a sin, but it's God died on the cross for our sins, and he knew our sins before we even committed them, they told me. So no, don't listen to this pastor. Don't talk to him anymore. This is not what is required of you to do. They were livid. And they called him and told him not to contact me anymore.
Wow. Can I ask you a question? I
You
just
sure
thought of
can.
this. Did he explain to you what a sin was? Because at 18, 19 years old, you think you're in love. Like our bodies have the ability by God to procreate. To me, it doesn't seem like a sin. I'm not, again, we've had this conversation before privately. I'm not a religious person, but I believe in spirit and God and whatnot. Did he explain to you? Did he go deeper into what the sin was? Was it because you weren't married? I mean, love
Because
is
I wasn't
love.
married. Yes. He said, because I wasn't married, and that you were to save yourself for marriage. And I didn't,
Hmm.
apparently. So
Wow. So the body's created by God to be able to procreate, but without a piece of paper and a wedding band, that's a sin. Okay, I just wanted to make sure for everybody at home, they're keeping track. Thank you.
So after my parents contacted him and told him not to call me anymore, he started calling me at work. And
The what?
he,
The pastor did?
mhm,
Wow.
yeah. And he told me that my parents, although they were, well, excuse me, let me back up. Okay. So he didn't call me from home anymore, and I didn't tell my parents that I was meeting with him anymore. But this caused severe strain in the relationship that I had with my mother, because she's like, this is my grandchild. Don't do this. Please don't do this. And they said, we cannot figure out why on earth a minister would say something like this to you, because that is not what God would want you to do. So after a lot of not arguing, but just, mother constantly begging me not to do it, please, please. And I would say, no, Mom, I have to do it because this is what God wants me to do. But Christopher, see, I thought that the minister would know more about what I should do for my sin than my parents, because he'd been to, what is it called, a theological school, wherever they get their degrees, and they study the Bible and different religions. And, my father was a white collar worker in an office. I mean, he didn't even work at a church. So I thought that he knew better than my parents. And so I trusted the minister about what I should do. And basically, we've heard that saying, put the fear of God into you.
Yeah.
I had the fear of God put into me. And that's the only way I was able to go through with the adoption.
How did you get the biological father, we'll call him? Did he agree with this because he didn't want to be a part of it? How did that part play into all the conversations?
Well, part of my mother trying to convince me to keep my child. And when she did talk to my father and I went and spoke to the father of the baby. And my father told him that he would get him a job. My dad was the superintendent where he worked. He would get him a job and get us a place to live if he would marry me and we keep the baby. And he was polite and listened to everything my father had to say. And then he simply said, no, thank you, and turned around and walked back in his parents' house.
Have you ever seen or talked to him since?
I have talked to him once since, yes.
Wow.
But
we'll get into that later in the story, but I forgot I never talked to you about that.
Yeah. He wasn't involved in the decision or anything. I never saw him until many years later.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give you an opportunity to collect yourself, because you've been sharing for a minute, and I know it's very emotional. I will share everybody who's listening out there. For those of you who are not familiar with my podcast, my wife and I had problems conceiving a child for many, many, many years. And then ultimately it was looked upon us to either do surrogacy or do any other methods by which to gain a child. And then my wife ultimately said, what do you think about adoption? And at first I was against it, but ultimately we went through the adoption process, and I'm happy to say that for 9 years, I have been the dad to the most amazing kid in the entire universe. I didn't think it was possible, but so in Caroline and I meeting through Nala, it's pretty incredible that the adoption theme came through this. And so I'm here to talk about the successful aspect of that, because in the other room, I have my 9-year-old son who is amazing. We're friends with the birth parents. And so there are opportunities for that to go successfully. But unfortunately, in your situation, it was a betrayal. It was a betrayal to me, looking at God, source, universe, and looking at the religious state and the church and everything of epic proportions. So what started to happen after that? So you decided, okay, listen, I'm going to listen to you guys. Your parents were obviously had to be supportive at that point, or were they still against you on that?
They didn't want me to, and they thought that they had convinced me to change my mind, but they were planning on the father accepting my dad's offer, and they thought that we would get married and keep the baby, but that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And so I told the minister about that. And then that's when he really turned up the heat, so to speak. He told me that my parents were not being sincere. He said, your parents are simply saying they're supported because they have no other choice. You have brought shame to your family. You have brought shame to your father and your mother's name. And I told him, I said, but they even told me that when I have the baby, I can live with them while I'm going to school and mom will watch the baby for me and I can go to college. You told me I would never be able to go to college if I had a child. I was saying everything that mom had convinced me of keeping my child and the positives and how we were going to make it work. But then he was able, even though I had told him I changed my mind, he was able to convince me that everything that I said that my parents had told me was all a lie. They were simply being supportive because they were forced to. They were ashamed of me. They were humiliated with me. And every time they would look at my child, they would be reminded of my sin and the hell that I put them through being in a small town where everybody knows everybody's business. I mean, if I lived in a big city, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. But I'm from a very small rural community. And this happened many decades ago, over four
Yeah, for everybody's
decades ago.
context, this had to have been probably the early 70s because you're only a few years older than I am.
It was actually in the 80s. So you're close.
I'm terrible at math.
That's okay. I am too. But it was a big deal. And as a matter of fact, there was only one other person that I knew of that was pregnant out of wedlock that I went to school with. And so I was only the second person.
Wow.
But you know what? My mom was so supportive. And looking back on it, I can't believe that I believed him and let him talk me into it. My mother, the very day that I had to wear maternity clothes to work for the first time, showed up at my place of work and said, I want to take you out to lunch. Oh. And we walked together up the streets of the town. And do you know can you imagine what that took for her to do that? She wanted to support me and to show everybody I'm not ashamed of my daughter because she's pregnant.
Sounds like a beautiful lady. Is she still with us?
No, they're passed. My parents have both passed. But I mean, I was raised in a family that was like the Brady Bunch. I was so blessed. I had excellent parents that loved me and had my best interest. And I hurt them so deeply when I didn't bring my baby home, my mother's first grandchild. And that's
unconscionable.
I didn't realize it back then because I was so young, but as an adult now, I can only imagine how that must have felt to her.
Devastating, I would imagine. I mean, geez. I mean, you're sitting there looking at such a beautiful, one of the most beautiful experiences that any people together can enjoy. Mm-hmm. And having that ripped out from under you under the guise of what's right, under the rule or the ideology of what's written in a book. I mean, don't get me started. Yeah, it's unbelievable to me, but the fact that what we were talking about earlier today is that everything does happen for a reason. And as my tattoo says right here, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger, because through pain, like I said at the top of the show, through pain for you guys listening, there's an opportunity for growth. And your resiliency, Caroline, your tenacity, your bravery, your ability to push through. Talk to us about what happened next. So you placed the baby for adoption. Yes. What are the next things that happen in your life, and how do you move on from that experience?
As hard as it was, my whole life, I have known that I did make the right decision for my child.
What made it right? What made it right? I'm curious about that part. What made it right? Because you went against your gut and you went against what your parents said. What made it right?
I looked up the word atonement, and the word sacrifice is in it. There's different meanings for different religions. So basically, I wasn't good enough for my own child. And so I had to not be selfish, he said, and keep my child because I was young. I could have other children when I marry. Very, very, he was very firm about that. And don't do this again. And I thought I'd made the right decision by giving my child a life that I could not give him. I was so beat down. Christopher, he told me, he said, kids are cruel. If you keep your child at school, they'll call him names. And I knew what he was talking about. He said he'll be ridiculed because he doesn't have a father. You'll never have a good enough job to be able to send him to college or to buy him a car.
Now I'm
And
getting
in
pissed.
fact, huh?
I said, now I'm getting pissed.
Yeah. He said, you'll always have to work 2 jobs because you won't be able to go to college and provide for him in a way that a married, established couple can. And the church's foundation will find a parents for your child because they have many applicants, and they will find someone who can give him everything that you can't. So you can't be selfish. You have to think of your child first. You have to do it because you've sinned first, is what I was told. And then it became all about my child, and that I wasn't good enough, and that he even said nobody would want to date me because I had a child. And if I did date them, I'm only sharing all of this, Christopher, because I'm hoping that anybody else who has been through this to know they're not alone. This is the deepest, darkest thing that has ever happened to me. There's a purpose for this for your audience. You all, Christopher knows it, but it's getting ready to get really better. But he said even if a man did date you, he wouldn't marry you. But if he did marry you, and if ever your child that you had prior to him got in trouble at school or somewhere, he would say to you, well, that's your child. You handle that. I mean,
I want to give you a minute. I want to give you a minute for, I just realized for the people that are listening, they're not seeing these amazing comments that are flashing up on the screen from the live people who are watching. So I'm going to give you a second to collect yourself. And I'm going to share some of these beautiful messages. Everybody is welcoming Caroline into the conversation. My friend Jacqueline, my Irish sister from another mister, says, together we can make a difference in our world, one person at a time, 100%. We've got somebody watching called Across the Pond Media. So thank you guys for being here. It says, hello,
that's
Caroline. Uella from Across the Pond. Robert says, hello to Across the Pond. Everybody, we are all in the chatter room cheering you on. Jacqueline says, go, Caroline, go. Nala says, just telling your story here already is making a difference. 1,000%, 1,000%. People are saying, hello, believe in yourself. Jacqueline says here also, to make a difference, you have to give of yourself, your truth and story, no matter how uncomfortable it may be.
Yes.
She knows this for a fact. I've known Jacqueline for many, many years now. Nala says, please share this out so other people can benefit from this message. Jacqueline says, I am proud of you, Caroline. You are a strong woman and unstoppable. And she says unstoppable because that's what I teach people. I sell these beautiful wristbands that say unstoppable on them. I wear them myself because I have to remind myself as well. Jacqueline says here, the pastor was a fruitcake. I think that's being very polite. Jacqueline, I would use different words for that. Nala says, you are doing great, Caroline. Across the Pond Media says the minister abused his position. Shame on him. I would use stronger language, but yes, I agree with you. Jacqueline says here, my niece was not married to her boyfriend. She was trying to get her son baptized. I called my Catholic church. They would not do it. What kind of message would we be sending? 1,000%, 1,000%. I've been told that I'm a better Christian than most Christians, and I'm not even a quote unquote Christian. I'm just a good person. Nala says, so the pastor persuaded you that you couldn't raise your son yourself. That seems to be the message, which we're going to get into that a little bit. Jacqueline says the pastor should not have been one. He is not a man of God. He was not right in the head. Could not agree more. Jacqueline also says here he was using psychological warfare. That
Oh,
never happens
wow.
that never happens in the church. Never happens. Nala says he knew all the buttons to press. Of course. Jacqueline says here the pastor was a sick predator. So this is what happens when you get to join us live, ladies and gentlemen. You get to participate in the conversation. You get to support our guests. You get to support the conversation. So thank you all for being here. It means the world to us. So as we're picking up the story and you had a chance to collect yourself, Caroline, what happens next? How do you carry on with your life with that void? Because I have known people who have placed their kids for adoption before I became a part of the adoption process. And I know that that is a big empty black hole that the mothers especially carry with them. How did you pick up and carry on with your life?
I'm a very anxious person, and I read a lot about adoptions and tried to find information. Well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself, but anxiety is a big part of my life. And I have read that there have been studies that show that there's a very high percentage of women who place their children for adoption who suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. And that's definitely putting it mildly.
Yeah.
I'm just a very anxious person, and now I understand more why. But Christopher, like I said, I thought that I had done the right thing. But I prayed for my son every night. I prayed for the people who adopted him, to God to watch over them, take care of all of them, let them have their health. There wasn't a day that went by that I never prayed and spoke my son's name to God. And then when he got older and he would have been old enough to get married, I started praying for a spouse that he might have. And then when more years went by, and I thought, maybe he's even had children himself by now, because this was so many years ago. This was over 4 decades ago.
Yeah.
But, holidays and birthdays were the hardest. But I still knew that I did the right thing until I got a phone call from someone associated with the adoption, and they needed information from me, medical information. They went through someone else to reach me. They said they had found me on social sites, Facebook, and they asked someone to intervene that they thought might know me, because that person is a minister as well. They told him their story and why they thought that I might be the biological mother of the child that they adopted. So this minister contacted me to ask if it was okay to give them my phone number. So he told me the date of birth. And I asked him, I said, do you know if they live between this town and this town? I don't want to say. And he said, yes, actually they do. And I said, it must be me then, because yes, I did have a child that was placed for adoption and that same date of birth. So when they called me, I can't even explain the emotions, because I was told that he had an acute illness and they were desperate for medical information.
Wow.
So I
4
gave them
decades later.
everything.
How many decades later? How many years was this?
Over 4.
Wow. So 40 plus years
Over.
later, the wound gets reopened.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, did you just like resign yourself that was in the past, and now all of a sudden, bam, here's reality hitting you back in the face again? And that your biological son is now experiencing a medical emergency?
I was afraid they may even have been telling me that he had died, because the message that this other minister that they contacted sent me was via Facebook. I didn't open it for 3 weeks. So 3 weeks had passed since they had contacted that minister.
Yeah, that seems fishy.
And so the emotional state that I was in to think I'm getting ready to speak to the people who raised my child, and is he okay? Did he have severe complications? Is he even alive? But they were beautiful to talk to. They're lovely people. And we had a wonderful conversation. And he told me that my child did survive and he has no complications. Thank you, God. And after they told me that, I said to them, I said, well, I'm trembling. Can you tell?
Just a little
I'm
bit. I mean, take your
embarrassed.
time. Take your time. I mean, people are vested in this story. So just to make sure I'm recapping correctly, the biological parent, or they're not the biological, the adoptive parents of your biological son had reached out to you because of a medical situation, and then there was also a minister involved, which surprise, surprise, and they let you know that he was okay ultimately, but they
Yes.
needed medical information from you.
Yes.
What was that medical information that they needed that was so dire? I mean,
The doctors couldn't figure out why what was happening to him was happening. They couldn't find any reason, but it was a severe health crisis. So they thought, and they had no medical information. What could it be? Cardiac? Could it be this? Could it be that? They knew nothing. So they found me. But see, technically, they shouldn't have been able to have found me
mhm.
because in the state of Kentucky, I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but me as I hate the word birth mother, but me, that's what I'm considered, birth mother, biological mother, could never, once I signed papers, reach out to my child. But in our state, the child can go through the adoption agents, or excuse me, can go through the Capitol. And there's a department that handles all the information, and then say, I would like to get in contact with my parents. And then if which I did, kept my address up to date with that department in Frankfurt, they would be the ones to contact me to say, hey, we've been notified by the child that you are the mother on the record of birth. I don't know, because it never happened. But that's the only way he could have gotten in touch with me.
So your son
But they
chose to
didn't
get in
do
touch
that.
with you to find out this medical information, not the
Well,
doctors necessarily.
the parents did.
The
The
parents did.
parents reached out when he wasn't able to due to the illness. It was
Gotcha.
very severe.
Gotcha.
Okay. But like I said, it was 3 weeks had passed, and thank goodness his condition resolved and he's okay. But after I shared the information, I said, I don't know what you know about me, but I'd be happy to share with you, how I came to my decision to place my child for adoption or answer any questions you may have. And so they said, yes, please do. And I started speaking, and I was stopped. And I was
Stop by the
told
birth mother, birth father. Who's on the conversation with you?
both of
I mean, not
them.
the birth father, the adopted. Sorry.
That's okay. That's
I
okay.
have a I
It's
have a I have
hard
a
to
flow
follow.
chart in my head that I'm trying to work on.
It's hard to understand. I understand.
Yeah.
But I was stopped, and they told me that actually they had read that. Read that. I'm like, where would
Red
you have
what?
read that?
Red what? Red what?
Uh-huh.
No,
No,
sorry.
what I
Say it
was
again. What?
telling them. What I
Okay.
was telling them about, I went to a minister and I said the minister's name and everything. He said, he stopped me, and he said, actually, I have read that somewhere. And I was like, okay. He said to me this phrase that I hear in my head every day. He said, I need to stop you there. He said, actually, I know the Reverend. He is deceased. I hope this doesn't hurt, he said. But he was my father-in-law.
Say what?
My wife's father. And I said, what? And he repeated himself. And my husband was here that day. And my husband and I were just like, what is going on in here? And my husband could tell, though, I still wasn't getting it. It always confuses me when people say my cousin and my first cousin and this
Same
in-law
here.
and that in-law. I get confused with that. And I
Yep.
just wasn't putting it together. And finally, my husband looked at me and said, Caroline, your child went to the minister's daughter. And I mean, can you imagine hearing this after living over 40 years, knowing that you placed your child through an adoption agency associated with a church, only to find out that there was actually an adoption plan in place, but yet I wasn't a part of that plan?
Was there an agency through the church that was that paperwork you had from that? I mean, was it all legit, or
It
how
didn't
did that part work
exist.
out?
It didn't exist because the father then said to me, he asked me if I remembered, and he said a man's name. And he said he asked me if I remembered the attorney, and he said the man's name. And I said no, but I do remember the law firm that he worked for, and I said it, and he said that's correct. And then he proceeded to tell me that the attorney, is deceased as well,
Wow.
and that he was related to them.
It's like a blooming onion. You just, I'm a visual person, Caroline. So I'm like trying to connect the pieces of the puzzle as it spider webs out. So I can explain it back to the viewers and the listeners who might be a little bit confused. But yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean, you were lied to, betrayed, but ultimately you were able to find that your son was alive and healthy. I mean, ultimately.
and and I realized my parents were right. And I wished I had listened to them, because if they did, my child would be with me where he belongs. They were right, but I didn't think so because he was a minister. So this is an ultimate betrayal. But Christopher, after it sunk in, it took months for me to be able to do this. But I asked God to forgive him,
Forgive him,
the
the pastor.
minister, because I told you I am a Christian. And I know that God died on the cross for our sins that he knew that we would commit before we were even born. And that's a big part of Christianity, is forgiveness. And I had read in the Bible that there's harsher judgment for people who are teachers in churches and things. But do you know what? Christopher, he's human. I basically fell right into his lap. He was in a situation where his own daughter couldn't have children and had been trying to adopt, I was told. And he didn't tell me the truth. but he's a man of the flesh. He's not any better than us just because he's a minister. But
Sometimes they think they are. That's kind of the sick, perverted thing about it is they put the uniform on and they hold the book and they think that they're better than everybody else, but they're flesh just like the rest of us. That's why we hear those terrible stories about ministers and priests and things of that nature. So you were ultimately, were you ever put in contact with your son throughout this entire experience? I mean, ultimately being able to be reconnected with his adoptive parents.
yes. And
And how did that go?
really well. And actually, I choose to keep that part of my life private,
Of course.
but really well.
Yeah, I'm
But
thinking for the people who are listening and following the story at home, there's always that interconnectedness. Was there a happy ending? We watch movies. Why? Because we want to see what the ending is. But more importantly, it's about your strength and your resiliency to be able to persevere through all those years with
yes.
that black hole of thinking, did I make the right choice? Did I make the right choice? Did I make the right choice? How did you resolve the guilt? I imagine there had to been guilt. How was the relationship with your parents after making that determination that you were going to trust the pastor versus what your parents had to say? Because I
Well,
know it's important for people who are listening, because I know people who have been in those similar experiences that you have, where
mhm.
they didn't do what they thought what their parents wanted them to do, and they did what somebody else said, and they had that unresolved emotion that felt like they had betrayed their parents or betrayed their gut. How did you resolve that, and what was that relationship like moving forward?
There was irreparable damage done, Christopher,
Oh,
because it was her grandson, and she begged me to
I'm
not go
sorry.
through with it. And she even offered, let me just raise your child. But I didn't, because that wouldn't have pleased God, because I had to atone, remember. I was told for my sins. But even though we still had a relationship, a loving relationship, it was damaged. It was never the same after that.
But
Never.
they were also spiritual people as well, right? So how did they?
Yes.
That's the thing I'm confused about a little bit, is that they took you to church and brought you up to believe the word and believe the gospel, however you want to put it. But then you did, but it betrayed what their gut was. How did you personally resolve that distraction? Because I can't even imagine being in your space going, okay, I love and appreciate and I trust my parents, but I have to go with what this person says, and then having that disconnection after the fact. How did you personally move from that to be a loving, caring person that you are today?
Because I shared with you that I am a Christian and I do love God. And I know that I believe I shared this with you earlier, that my parents have told me that everything does happen for a reason. There are terrible stories we hear of things that happen to people. Well, I don't need to give examples, but I mean, we've heard of terrible, terrible things that happen.
Got a
But
guy in the White House doing
huh?
that. Nothing.
What'd you say?
I just said we have a guy in the White House doing that. Sorry.
Oh, um, unfortunately, though, see, changes can be made at the expense of others. And what I'm saying
Unfortunately.
is that laws can be made and amendments can be made to laws. And that's why sometimes laws are named after people. Like if somebody was murdered recently, or that man that has the detective show, his son that was murdered, there's something called Adam's Law.
Yeah, Adam Walsh.
You
Yeah.
yes, thank you. That's who it was. My husband had told me that. And so I have had to accept the fact that I couldn't change what had happened, but my experience in the work field is actually crisis management. And I was also a director of nursing in 2 different long term care facilities. So
Wow.
I took all of that pain, and you all here in the audience, this is where it gets good. This is the encouragement that I want to share. And this is the part that I'm relieved that we are at, because that was so hard to share with you all. But I did share it with you because I thought that I didn't want to live anymore. Well, I didn't think, I knew that I didn't want to live anymore. I was so hurt, so betrayed.
That
I
was your
was so
darkest moment.
violated, the darkest moment in my life. And so I thought to myself, I kept talking to God so closely. What do you want me to do with this, God? Please help me. I don't know what to do with this. Help me. And then it dawned on me that I do have expertise in crisis management. And what I'm referring to in my field in long-term care, if something ever happened to a patient or a visitor at the facility, then we had to prepare what's called a plan of correction, to write down steps that you will put in place so that it never happens again. Because if you get in trouble with your annual state inspection, or if an incident happens, then the state and or federal agency has to approve what you say you're going to put in place to make sure that somebody else doesn't have the same thing happen to them. And that's what I did. And Christopher, I was licensed in 14 states, including St. Thomas Virgin Islands. I was a consultant. I was a badass, just like you're a badass coach. In my field, I know what to do to take care of problems.
Yeah.
So I took that knowledge and I said, okay, what could be put in place? Nothing can be done for me, but what could I get done to help make sure that this never happens to anyone else? So you all, this is why I'm telling you that one voice can move mountains, and you can take any dark place that you're in or any situation that you're in and do what I did. I came up with a plan to get a bill written that requires that when an adoption plan is occurring, that the birth mother be given her own attorney, and that the birth mother receive counseling from a qualified certified counselor in adoptions. And I even put in one more thing, that they must sign a paper stating, both of them on their own papers, stating that they have no personal, no legal, and no business relationship whatsoever with the adoptive mother or the adoptive birth parents. So I wrote it up and I looked up online, how do you get a bill? Take written, whatever. And I found out what I needed to do, and I made a call. I sent an email to my legislator and told my story briefly, but I presented it in a business-like way. I stated the problem, what happened, what could be done to correct it, da 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 da.
Right.
I heard back from him in less than a week.
Wow.
Yes. And he said, I agree. And his secretary contacted me and said that he was going to call me the next day. Now,
Wow.
keep this in mind, you all. This is why I'm telling you, no matter what you're experiencing, I don't know if what I went through is worse or what somebody else went through is worse. We're all hurt. We're all damaged. We've all had bad things happen, but it's what you do with that that makes a difference. And you can turn anything negative into a positive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So he called me the next day and he told me that he had an adoption expert in the office with him.
Wow.
Now keep in mind, this happened in less than 24 hours, by the way, when he called me after me receiving his email that said, I agree. And he said, I would like for you to share your story. And he gave me the person's name that was in the room. And he said, there have been many changes to adoption laws since mine. However, the elements that I addressed have not been incorporated. And he said, unfortunately, we are at what is known as the end of session. So January to April every year in Kentucky, the legislators from every county are in session, meaning they are at the state capitol for that whole time, reading and revising bills. Okay. And I contacted them just under 4 weeks before the session ended.
Damn.
So, so the legislator told me, he said, it's too late to get a bill written. And see, I had stressed the urgency to him and to his secretary. I'm like, this can't wait till next year when you all go back in session. I said, there are women right now, even as you and I speak, Christopher, they're
Mhm.
giving birth to babies that they're never going to see again, that they were misled into making a decision that they didn't want to make, just like me. I know I'm not the only person. And that's
You
why I
actually,
have to.
on that point, hold that thought for a second. We have a question here. It says, "Where were your lawyers in all this?"
I was told that the second lawyer that came that day to get my signature on the papers would be considered my lawyer, but
Hmm.
they were partners in the same law firm. Was that biased?
A little bit coercion, biased. Yeah, there's a few adjectives for that. Mhm.
So,
Manipulation, guilt. Yeah.
you know, I went, Christopher, from wanting and begging God to take me home, to let me die. I can't carry this burden. This is unfathomable. I can't do it. Please, God, please. Now I get up every day and I thank God for each day. And I thank him that he has let me get an amendment added to a bill.
So
And
awesome.
I am thankful that I am going to protect other women from something like this happening. The chances of the relationship of the people involved with each other, that's probably would never happen again. But we all know that there are some people who who I mean, we've read and heard about it in the back in the day, selling babies and stuff like that. Now that wasn't my case at all, but they people like that will be protected as well, because people now are going to sign, and if they lie, when the counselor and the attorney sign a paper, if they lie under this bill, they decided to charge a class A felony. And in the state of Kentucky, that's the highest felony and highest charge below a or excuse me, a misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor.
I
Yeah.
misspoke. Misdemeanor. That is the highest form of punishment if they lie on that form without it being a felony. So they
Seems
didn't
like it
just
should be
make
a
it a little,
felony
they
given
didn't
the nature of human lives at play. But yeah, I mean,
they didn't make it be that you'll get a smack on the hand or a fine. No, you're signing that you have no personal, business, or legal relationships with either people. Now, this is important because I'm just one person, and I made contact with two people, and one of them got back with me in less than a week. And for this to happen, see, when they're not in active session during the months of May through November, that's when they're in their own communities and they're working on bills, taking surveys. What can I do for you as your representative?
right.
That's when this would have been taken up. So unfortunately, they had to attach my amendment to a bill that they would think it would be kind of close to. So they attached it to a bill that has to do with child welfare. Um, so there were over 100 bills sent to be signed by the governor, but
Nice.
amongst them were transportation bills and things like, nope, it's not going to work here. But see, an amendment isn't enough, and that is just minimum protection, because when my person gets back out of session, on the 15th of this month, we're going to be working on writing a new adoption bill. And it's going
That's
to
what I'm
have a
talking
lot
about,
more in it.
Caroline.
Yes.
So given everything that you've shared and the enormity of this story, which I'm sure people listening to this are just going, okay, I got to go back and listen to this again. What are some final thoughts that you want to leave with the listener that that can send home the message of empowerment, of resiliency, of overcoming the past traumas that we've all experienced? What is a message that you would like to send to everybody listening around the world? Because we're in 100+ countries, different languages are deciphering all this. What's your message to people for them to become a victor rather than a victim?
If you find yourself in any situation that you just think you can't get out of, or that is never going to get better, please know that there are going to be better days. It has taken me almost a year to be able to be strong enough to be able to be here and talk to you right now. And Christopher, my screen just changed. I don't know if you're there.
I'm here. I'm just letting you have the limelight while I adjust my back.
You. Okay. So I just want you all to know that if ever you find yourself in what you think is an impossible situation and you don't see any way out, don't give up. You are going to get through it. I am proof. And as painful and as embarrassing as it is for me to have shared my story, it was required because I made healthy, positive changes, and I'm just one person, and I'm going to protect others by getting this bill in place. And I'm not stopping there either. And I'll share that announcement with you in a moment, Chris. But to tell your viewers, don't try to do anything by yourself, because you need someone who is experienced and can help you, such as Christopher here. Now, I found Christopher in the midst of this nightmare that I was in just a few months ago. And I'm a fan of the show. I love his show. Unfortunately, I don't think you're taking insurance right now, but I am going to be a client because I know you're going to tell him how to join your group, but don't try to do it by yourself. I do have a therapist that I see, and I actually changed therapists because mine was just a nurse practitioner. But when I received the call that day, I was like, she doesn't know how to guide me through how to reunite with my child. And so I changed to a psychologist whom I made no moves whatsoever with my son, the family, anybody, without talking it through with them. Because you can't go to YouTube University for something like this. Right? You can't. Right. That's what I call it. But just know that if me making just one call was able to get an amendment on the floor in the House of Representatives and pass and then go to the Senate, you can do. So no matter what your situation is, no matter who you believe in, be it God, be it whoever you believe in, just know that through your faith and with a professional counselor, that you can get through it, and you will. I went from wanting to die to now begging God to give me another day so I can complete my mission. Because, see, I'm not stopping with Kentucky. I am going to get this law passed in every state, okay? Every state, because every woman needs protection. And, you know, if me, one person from this rural, rural is what I'm saying. If you can't, my accent, rural area can get something done in the state capital. Are you kidding me? You can too. So work with Christopher or anybody, that you're close to. Don't try to do it alone, but you can make a difference and you will get better. You will make it. Look at me right now. Look in my eyes. I just walked through hell. Okay. And I came out and I have emerged triumphant. Now, I, as a mother, don't get to leave a legacy behind because my child was adopted. But this is my legacy now, and I am leaving a legacy behind to protect women from this ever happening to them. So I'm proud of that. And yeah,
As you should be.
you're going to be fine. I just want everybody to know you're going to be okay. I promise you, because I wanted to die and I've gone to begging for more days now so I can do what I want to do and get it accomplished.
Amen. We just got a comment from Jessica 918621 says, thank you. You share the same story that I experienced where I had to do the same things, but I lose first kid. Thank you, Jessica, for tuning in and being a part of this experience, because, you know, together we learn, together we heal, together we move on. There are strengths in numbers. And like you just said, it's about finding purpose. It's about finding that strength. People ask me all the time, like, Chris, do you wish you had a normal set of parents? Do you wish you weren't homeless? Do you wish you hadn't had all of these things that are coming out in my book later this year? And I tell people, quite honestly, no, I don't want to repeat any of it. God is my witness. But I am thankful for all of those experiences because they helped me determine the man that I chose to be. They helped me determine the path that I've been on, which has not been easy. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I have impacted thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And I continue to do that every single day with my story, because it is about that choice. It is about that choice when you are down in the dirt, when you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, when you feel like there is no hope and that you want to be taken, like you said before. And I have been there so many times. I tried to kill myself in a car. I tried to kill myself with pills. God knows I tried to do it with alcohol. There have been so many experiences in my life where I'm just like, I am better off gone than I am here. But thankfully, through that pain, I found my purpose. And through that purpose, I found this undeniable presence with me and with the people that I support that enable me to be that vision of somebody who has been through hell and back. And you are the same person, Caroline. And the
We
people
share
that are
that thread
watching
in
right now,
common.
it
Mhm.
really is. It's really about banding together and realizing that, like you just said, you said it so perfectly. We all just want to know it's going to be okay.
Yes.
And it really is. If you're within the sound of our voices, guys, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. It's going to be great. And it may not be great here and there, because those times when it's not so great, that's the time when you sit there and say, what am I made of? And I have a tattoo. I think, I can't remember if I shared it before, but it says, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. And the
That's
tattoo on
right.
the other arm, because I have both, the other one says, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And that's what was told to me by a guy named Bill White when I was 17 years old. And I kept saying, God, he wants me to go back to school. I'm stupid. And he goes, if you keep telling yourself that you're stupid, that you're unworthy, that you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, then you are going to find that evidence. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, if I tell you to look around the room and tell me everything that's green, and you look and you go green, 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 and I tell you what, and I say, what's red, you're going to be, I was looking at green. The same thing happens in our life.
Yes.
So what can you say? What can you say to close us out? Because we have been going for an hour and 28 minutes, and God, the truth be told, I have to use the restroom.
Okay.
So I'm just being freaking honest.
I promised you an announcement. And as you know, Christopher, Nula is my publicist.
Yes.
And
Awesome
that announcement is that my book, my story is being written as we speak. I'm coming out with a book. An author is writing this who has been published herself twice, not self-published, but Random House, like Big Five, which I don't know anything about, the stuff, but I know that about her. And she said my story has to be told, and she's a woman, and we have to get the word out. So there is a book coming out with my story, and also, we are going to have, it's not complete tonight, but we have what's it called? I'm new to this. A web page, a landing page where people can follow my story and other women. Because I'm only one person, you all. I need you all boots on the ground to contact your legislators and say, hey, I want
Yes.
you to do this in my state, what Caroline Boyd did in Kentucky. So there is going to be what's already completed. It's just not made public yet, but there'll be a form on there. And I want people to know too that you don't have to wait for your state to, this is important, Chris, if you don't mind. Can I say this real quick?
Absolutely.
That
100%.
you don't have to wait to get a bill passed. If you're considering an adoption plan, you can insist on having your own attorney and your own counselor who is experienced, who is certified to counsel in adopting. And we're going to have a page on our website where you can download a form. All you have to do is just print it out, and you can demand that before you make a decision that's going to change the rest of your life, to ensure that you do receive unbiased counseling. So that's going to be available. And so the website, I'm going to tell you all what you need to do it in your own states. And for the states where nobody else steps up, I'm going to be there because I'm not stopping until this is in every state. But yes, a web page and a book. And I'm so appreciative for you to interview me and let me tell my story, Christopher, because you are a part of helping, because you have an audience and you are a humanitarian. You love humanity. You tell us that all the time. I
Mhm.
am too. And I was so thankful that I found you and your show, and that you're letting us use this platform to help others know that this is a story not where I gave in and gave up or took my life, but I triumphed in a very big way. And I wish that for everybody. And I thank you, Christopher, because your shows helped me tremendously over the past year. Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And for everybody who is listening at home, there is a website. It's at Caroline A. Boyd Official, at Caroline, CAROLINE, as in Adam, BOYDOFFICIAL. I feel like I'm an EIEIO. Caroline
I know,
A.
right?
Boyd Official. Make sure you guys are following her there. Also, Jessica chimed in to Caroline. One day we talk again over chatter. Thank you. And thank you, Caroline, for your bravery, for your tenacity, for your belief, for your love of this show, to be on here to share your message. There are so many different directions I know this could have taken. And I'm so thankful that we got to have this conversation, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that people all over the world are needing to hear this conversation, that people are going to be referring this podcast to other people that need to hear this information, because so oftentimes in these dark moments, we are trusting of people that otherwise maybe shouldn't be trusted with such huge life decisions. So, so thank you for being here. I'm going to put you backstage for a second. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to round out the show. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we've gone an hour and 33 minutes. We normally keep it to an hour, but I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is going to be a powerful, powerful conversation. Robert says here, what a wonderful way to close out the evening. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Christopher. Yes, you guys are welcome. No, thank you. Thank you guys all for listening and hanging in with us for this far. If you didn't get the memo, if you didn't get the message, this is what I'm saying to you guys listening to this within the sound of my voice. Like it says here, lover of humanity, like Caroline said, you know, we all have situations in our life, in our world, that we disagree with, that we are frustrated with. And if we look to find people we disagree with and situations we're frustrated with, as I've given the example a few times right now, we will find more of that. But if we look to one another and we realize that we are more the same than we are different, no matter the color of the skin, no matter how tall we are, no matter what God we subscribe to, no matter what our sexual orientation, no matter what fucking label society or history or anybody wants to put on us, you know, it's pretty cool to realize that we're in this together. You know, I just saw pictures of Earth from outer space, and we really are just a spinning blue marble in space. We're a spinning blue marble in space. And all of us, including myself some days, think we have forever. We think we have tomorrow. We think we have next week. We think we have next year to finally be happy, to finally live with purpose and passion. But I encourage you to really find purpose in your pain. Find what it is that you are willing to fight, blood, sweat, and tears for other people not to experience. And I have dedicated my life since I was pretty much 21 years old to the homeless cause and to at-risk kids. I have mentored at-risk kids. I have mentored kids in jail. I have mentored gang members. I have mentored all sorts of different demographics of society who are where I was, hanging out with the wrong people, doing the wrong things. Again, you read my book, it's going to be out. It's called It's Just You and Me, Kid. If you go to itsjustyouandmekid.com, you'll find a little place where you can put your name and your email and you'll find out about it. My story is beyond incredible. And that's not the thing that I'm hawking here. The thing is the fact that we can all find the leverage within ourselves to say, you know what? I'm not going to be another statistics. I've helped people who have been raped. I have helped people who have been abandoned. I've helped people who have been betrayed, and in every aspect of life where you can get fucked over, I have helped dozens and dozens, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people in every area of life realize that the place where you fall the hardest is the place you bounce the highest. And that when you look back on your life, you don't want to be remembered as a victim. You don't want to be remembered as somebody who bitched, pissed, and moaned about what other people did to you. You want to be remembered as that person who said, you know what? Fuck that. That's an experience that I had to get me to the place where I am now, like Caroline said, that says, you know what? I can do something. I can do something. Can I go be a big sister to little girls and mentor them if they've been touched in inappropriate ways? Can I go out there and can I help women who have been betrayed by their husbands? Can I go out there and help husbands who have been betrayed by their wives? Can I go out there and advocate for business relationships? Whatever it is in your area, there is no stone that can be left unturned where we can give of ourselves each and every day. And just imagine 8 billion people on the planet. Just imagine this. I want you to imagine. John Lennon said, imagine. Just imagine if every single person tomorrow said, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do one nice thing for a complete stranger. Everybody in the fucking world just said, I'm going to go do one nice thing for a complete stranger. And then that stranger did something else for somebody else. Or you picked up a piece of trash. You opened the door. You said hi. You bought somebody a meal. You used your pain into your purpose. Can you imagine how different this world would be in 2 weeks? If everybody just said, you know what, instead of me espousing what my beliefs and what my opinions are, whether it's for this person or that person or this belief or that belief or whatever it might be, if everybody just shut up and fucking listen and went, you know what, let me hear what you have to say. And then just shut up and listen, because oftentimes people are talking over the other people that are talking. They're not really listening. They're formulating their opinion and their judgments based on selective hearing disorder. And nobody's doing anything. But when you stop and you sit there and say, you know what, I care about what it is that you have to say. People tell me all the time, you're an amazing listener. And that's because I care. And so when you listen to somebody, as we listen to Caroline tonight, as I listen to people every single day, like Caroline said, I'm a coach and I've been doing it for over 30 years. I love what I do. But each and every one of us can just stop, whether it's your husband, whether it's your kid, whether it's your best friend, whether it's a crossing guard, whoever it is, you can just stop and say, how are you doing? And I'm not asking how you're doing just as a passing phrase. I really care about what it is that you're doing. People may find it weird and disalarming, but ultimately, like Caroline also said, we all just want to know it's going to be okay, right? We're still little boys and little girls stuck in these adult bodies trying to figure it the fuck out because nobody helped us as we got older to process our emotions, to process our guilt, to process our shame, to process our guilt, our anger, to process anything. And we just keep trying to figure it the fuck out. But when you decide that you're no longer going to be a victim, when you decide that you're going to prepare yourself for what's next, and ultimately, this is what you're doing. I think I've said it before. We're all going to die someday. You, me, I just told somebody this the other day and it freaked them the fuck out. I said, I'm going to your funeral or you're coming to mine. No, Chris, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And I'm like, I don't care if you want to fucking hear it. It's true. I'm going to your funeral. You're going to mine. And guess what? I'm going to stand up at your funeral and I'm going to talk about you. And your actions and everything that you say and you do get to predict what it is that I'm going to say. So you could choose to be a victim and sit there and whine, bitch, piss, and moan about everything that happened to you and how you're out of control and it's up to them to fix it. Or it's up to you to sit there and say, you know what? That doesn't define me. That doesn't define who I get to be. My bouncing point is the fact that I hit the ground so hard, but I chose to bounce higher and use that pain to become my gift. So I encourage you, wherever you're at in your life, to shut up, start trusting yourself, start saying nicer things to yourself. Make sure you're around people that push you out of your comfort zone, that each and every day you're taking that imperfect action to become a better person to yourself, a better person to other people, that you're taking the time to listen, that your body language says you're listening. You're not, yep, I'm listening. Yep, yep, oh, wow, that's, yeah. That you're like, wow, can you tell me more about that? How did that make you feel? I can't even imagine being in that situation. What do you think you would do differently? Wow. Can I offer a couple of points? You open to that? And then you have a dialogue, you have a discussion. So what is it that you're going to do from this conversation? What is it that I can do to help? How can I be supportive to you? Right? Instead of just going, you should do this and you should do this and you should do this and you should do this. When you're not taking care of your own shit, people are really going to trust you. But hey, can I encourage you? Can I be there for you? Can I hold you accountable? Can I help you keep your promise to yourself? Because at the end of the day, you guys deserve love and abundance and opportunities. So quit shooting yourself in the dick all the time, saying that you're not that good and you're not going to find the right person and you're never going to find the job and you're never going to have the house, you're never going to have the car, you're never going to have anything. How about every single day say, you know what? I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to be grateful for what I do have. And I'm going to focus on that, not what I don't have, because again, you're going to find that. But wow, I'm really grateful for the fan I have on. I'm really grateful for the dry erase board. I'm really glad for the clock that I just realized that I'm way over time. I'm grateful for my CDs. I'm grateful for my cat. I'm grateful for my family that's outside that's waiting for me. I'm grateful for the fact that I am healthy and I'm not in the hospital. I'm grateful for every breath I get to take. Because so often we take that for granted. And then when it's gone, guess what? It's gone. We're all getting older. Time is passing by and it's going to go like that. Trust me. So it's what you do. It's what you do. Okay? It's what you do. So thank you. Thank you for listening this long. Thank you, Jacqueline, for your kind comments. She says, you are good at what you do. Christopher, thank you. She also says, you make me a better person by being you. It's because I have people in my life like you guys who care and who show up and who share this message. So together we make the world better. Together we make the world stronger. So it's about love. It's about love. It's about hope. It's about opportunity. So again, get with Caroline, be inspired by this message. And I thank you guys. I'll be back here next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go back and check out some previous episodes. Last week was a doozy. The last 6 months, I've done a lot of vulnerable posts and a lot of vulnerable podcasts, and there's a lot more where that's coming from. So thank you guys. Go out there, be awesome, be kick-ass unstoppable. No excuses, coach. Out.